We all have a few places we know we never want to live. But do you know about the 10 best states to live in the U.S.? From the beautiful state of Vermont to the exotic state of Hawaii, I'm here to tell you. 10. Utah. The 10th best state to live in is Utah. It ranks second for the economy, third for infrastructure, and fifth for fiscal stability. Utah residents enjoy a high quality of life. It is also more affordable than its neighbor state, Colorado. Utah was the 45th state to join the U.S., but it's the 13th largest in the country. It's a great tourist spot thanks to its four-way shared border with Arizona, New Mexico, and Wyoming. Utah also boasts lovely natural landscapes and 5 national parks. It's known for hosting the 2002 Winter Olympic Games in Salt Lake City. 9. Minnesota. This region sits near the Great Lakes of North America and is also surrounded by forests and prairies. It's the second northernmost state in the U.S. behind Alaska. Its borders include Lake Superior, Wisconsin, Iowa, North Dakota, South Dakota, as well as Manitoba and Ontario in Canada. Winters are extremely cold and summers are hot, but there is a lot of beauty in Minnesota, which is what keeps people living there. Overall, in Minnesota, people work pretty hard and have good values. The unemployment rate is the 5th lowest in America, and for darn good reason. There's pride in work. Minnesota is part of what we refer to as the Midwest, for Northern Midwest. And when you look at the numbers, the Midwest rocks when it comes to livability, second only to the Northeast. In Minnesota, families earn about $63,000 a year, which is one of the highest numbers in the nation. And not only do they live relatively comfortable lives, folks in Minnesota are a lot safer than most other states too. Houses are selling faster than in most other states, and as we said, that's a good sign. The only knock on Minnesota, of course, is the weather. Minnesota winters were actually voted as the worst in America. There are long stretches in Minnesota where you're trapped at home. You can't even get your car doors open, much less drive through all the snow. 8. Colorado. Colorado is known for its fresh mountain air, lots of forests and greenery, and people with a love for the outdoors. It's a landlocked region that offers some of the best views in the world, such as the Rocky Mountains, the Colorado River, the Great Plains, and the Colorado Plateau. The state is bordered by Wyoming, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Utah, and Arizona. Its climate ranges from the Mediterranean to the subtropical to the cold desert, which gives a wide variety for all kinds of citizens. Colorado ranks first for the economy in the country. Denver, Boulder, and Colorado Springs are all cities with diverse economies and plenty of opportunities. Residents have access to big mountains for skiing, as well as vast wildlife to explore in addition to booming cities. Colorado residents are among the healthiest in the United States, as well as with the lowest obesity rate in America. 7. Connecticut. Connecticut is often grouped with New York and New Jersey in a tri-state area. That said, it also shares borders with Rhode Island and Massachusetts. It is distinctly New England and is known as the Constitution State, named after the Great Compromise of 1787. Connecticut misses the top 3 for the first time in a while, but the families over there are some of the wealthiest in the country, no doubt. But when you factor in the cost of living, those salaries don't go quite as far here as they would in other states. Homes sell quickly, and there are less vacant housing units in Connecticut than any other state. That's a very positive sign for the Constitution State. Connecticuters are also very educated. There are only 3 other states with bigger brains than here. The public schools are great too, perhaps a little overcrowded, but not too bad. And it's one of the least dangerous states in the country as well. Connecticut ranks as the 12th safest in terms of annual crimes and 5th lowest for violent crimes. Plus, we discovered that if you like people with fresh breath, Connecticut is your place. Connecticuters have the cleanest teeth and all the land. Definitely something to be proud of. However, they certainly aren't spending all that money on the roads, nor are they the highways. The pothole state was voted as having the nation's worst roads. Half of them are considered in disrepair in any given year. Drivers can be selfish, and the wealthy people in Connecticut are sort of snobby. Guess you just have to have thick skin to live here. To number 7 you go, Connecticut. 6. Massachusetts. This rather small state covers just 10,565 square miles, but it's got one of the highest population densities in the country. Dotted with beautiful bays and rivers, it boasts coastal plains, busy cities, rolling hills, and the Cape Cod Peninsula. According to the key metrics above, Massachusetts comes out as one of the best states in the U.S. to live. Massachusetts is an awesome place to live. Households bring in over $74,000 a year on average, which isn't too shabby. Homes are some of the most expensive in the country. That's a good sign that the overall economy in the Bay State is stable and there's demand to live here. As economists, we know that home prices are the single biggest determinant of demand to live in a place, and high home prices mean a lot of demand for this northeastern state. Massachusetts is also one of the most densely packed states in the country, so there's plenty to do in a short drive. 5. Vermont. Vermont is the sixth smallest state, at least by area. Interestingly, its most populated city can't even match other top cities in the U.S. Of course, the state has a lot going for it. Nature, the indigenous tribes, and Vermont is the leading producer of maple syrup. It's a great place to live for completely different reasons. Crime here is really low. Vermont is the second fastest state you can live in. There were only 10 murders in Vermont in all of last year. In Chicago, that many people get shot at one party. If you value a good public school education, then Vermont is your place. The schools here are well funded and just about the least crowded that you'll find in the country. That's not a surprise, since just more than 500,000 people live in the entire state. Vermont also ranks as the third best place for health insurance, which means people here are healthy as a clam stuck in the mud. And finally, Vermont has the beautiful Lake Champlain, one of the most picturesque places in the country. People in Vermont are like, "Stop saying we're awesome. We don't want any more people moving here." Sorry, Vermont. You're just so likable. 4. Virginia. They say Virginia is for lovers, and maybe that's because of its natural beauty. From the Chesapeake Bay to the Blue Ridge Mountains and coastlines of beaches, this area has something to offer everyone. Half of its land is covered in forests, and it's just a short drive away from the nation's capital, the District of Columbia. Besides its geography, it offers a safe location for families to call home. Virginia took a bit of a hit this year as it's a bit too close to the swamp that is D.C. to maintain a higher position in the pantheon of best states. Virginia and Maryland are just about the wealthiest states in the country. We're not saying that money is the cure-all for happiness, but it sure does help a lot. And you might be surprised to hear that Virginia is actually the 13th least dangerous state in the country. That's according to the latest FBI statistics, which measure violent and property crimes per capita. The public schools in Virginia are above average, and they are some of the least crowded you'll find. The only real category where Virginia did poorly is insured residents, as over 10% of them lack coverage. 3. New Jersey. This region offers proximity to New York City in the north, Philadelphia in the south, and stretches of beaches along its eastern side. The west is landlocked, with nearby access to Baltimore and Washington, D.C. New Jersey is small, with a length of 170 miles and a width of 70 miles. It is home to several interesting bodies of water, such as the Delaware Water Gap, the Hudson Palisades, and the Jersey Shore. Growing up in New Jersey, I would have told you it's the best state, but I'll settle for number 3. What other state can elicit a cheer from every native across the bar? New Jersey residents are some of the wealthiest in the country. Families here earn about $76,000 a year. It's also pretty safe in New Jersey, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a state with a better funded and managed public school system, at least for now. The downside? It's the most densely populated place in the state, and commute times are longer than almost anywhere else. That's even taking into account the long stretches in Jersey where there are more cows than people. That's about the only reason it doesn't rank closer to number 1. Number 2. Hawaii. Known as the Aloha State and Paradise of the Pacific, Hawaii is one of the most beautiful sights in the world. The island region has its privacy from the rest of the country since it isn't part of the continental U.S. Hawaii boasts beautiful beaches, lovely flora and fauna, and a laid-back culture. That being said, it's also known for having a high cost of living. There's lots of things that make Hawaii a great state. It gets an A+ by CNBC for its latest quality of life score, citing clean air, a ton of things to do, and really low crime rate. Plus, there's rainbows everywhere, and amazing beaches too. It's expensive to live in Hawaii, sure. Home prices are in the highest in the land. The average Hawaiian home costs over $690,000. You get what you pay for, there's beauty around every corner, and most residents live a healthy, safe life according to the numbers. Everyone wants to live here, as you can tell by the astronomically high home prices. This also means a lot of well-educated folks call Hawaii home. The state doesn't appear higher on the list because of a bit of a crime problem relative to the rest of the top 10, but nothing to sneeze at. 1. New Hampshire. This state sits comfortably in New England next to some other top picks on this list, Massachusetts and Vermont. New Hampshire is quite interesting. Its proximity to Quebec, Canada, brought many French Canadians to the land back in the day. Today, about a quarter of the population has French Canadian ancestry. New Hampshire just kicks butt in many ways. To start, crime is the lowest in the country. Where you look at the number of people killed in each state, it's pretty telling. California is way up here, and New Hampshire is way down here. There's 130 times less violence in New Hampshire than in California. New Hampshire also has the nation's #1 spot for the least number of people living in poverty. That's a sign people are self-reliant and independent. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg to live here. People are educated and really healthy. The only setback for youth is the high cost of getting a college degree, but there are lots of jobs in the area for when you're done. The unemployment rate here is basically zero. Add it all up, and you can't find a better place to live than the Granite State. Overall, if you live in New Hampshire, you're likely a pretty happy camper. And that's what concludes the top 10 best states to live in the U.S. Thank you for watching.